I'd like to thank the organisers, as I did yesterday, for an excellent event. Thank you to all of the attendees, student delegates, special guests of honour, the organisers, Dr. Garg, Mr. Razan, all the eminent speakers, including Mr. Purty, Mr. Chandra. I'm grateful to you all. My job today is to give you a whistle-stop tour of waste to energy. You know a lot about waste to energy from what you've been studying, learning, doing in your jobs, and also what you've seen this week. But I'm just going to cover a little bit about what we're doing with waste to energy at Fuel Economy Solution. I did mention a few of these details, but I'll run over them from yesterday in case they were missed. We sell directly or private label combustion technology, and we also have a consulting service, Green Economy Solution. We have three types of product. One of them is for internal combustion engines in a liquid form. One is a lower, slightly lower grade for open combustion boilers in powder form. And one is for marine shipping going into day tanks, HFO, in a solute with something like acetone or gasoline. The organometallics of our product are from sustainable sources, iron-based catalysts, and we have a bespoke product design service for those companies that like what we see, like what we do and like what they see. The expected minimum improvements if you're in a road vehicle using our technology in a very high sulfur, maybe in Africa or developing a nation, Euro 1 fuel will be 10% plus saving. And then round to the European fuel standards and the BS6, 5% or better. The significant reduction in black smoke is a key here and something I'd love to speak to the IOC about for dosing at the pump to medicate the nation. By reducing black smoke by 75%. Testing provides a proof across all of our different modes of application for the internal combustion engine. And this is just a visual explanation for you. On the right is, on one side you can see Z219 without our product. And on the left you can see the black smoke stack from before our product goes into the engine. So you imagine that multiplied by 6 million vehicles going into Delhi or a major city anywhere in the world and out again each day. That's a significant amount of improvement in lung health, carcinogenic risk to lung cancers and asthma. Waste management though, it got us thinking when the waste to energy market started to take off, could we do something with combustion catalysis and waste? Landfill is creating a toxic and expensive legacy. Waste management methodologies do improve as societies develop, but that means, as we've seen from yesterday's and today's presentations, that there will be increased load as societies grow and develop and demand more as their lifestyles improve and their qualities of life improve. So that means more waste, more industry, more industrial waste. So by dealing with waste management in a more effective way in a green economy transformation, we are supporting at least 7 of the Sustainable Development Goals. We know what these are, so I'm not going to go through them in detail. However, some simple waste stats for you, ladies and gentlemen. 2.2 billion tonnes are produced globally every year. 80% goes, up to 80% goes into landfill, which is frankly unacceptable, I think we can agree. 10 million tonnes of plastic ends up in the sea, and 90% of that plastic enters from just 10 rivers. 3 basic waste sources I'm going to cover today: residential, agricultural, and industrial. I won't cover agricultural very much, to be honest. We know a lot about the use of waste, and we heard earlier today about pelleting of agro waste products. But in the UK, a more advanced society, I guess, because we've gone through the fuel transformation curve, we've got high GDP, but we have food, glass, plastic, rubber, and wood all separately collected. Non-recyclable waste as well, separately collected. So we separate those out and we try and make use of those again. But our waste to energy focus at Fuel Economy Solution isn't in the developed emissions control markets. Where you've got fast-growing markets, rapid urban industrial growth, where there's an increasing strain on construction, where you're demolishing more properties and you're building bigger hotels and skyscrapers. We want to promote, I would say, anything that stops things going to landfill that you can burn more cleanly. So developing fuel economy and waste to energy mining proposals, promoting non-landfill strategies and partnering in ocean plastics waste-to-energy projects are the key projects that we're looking at the moment. So alternative industrial fuels would be the way I would describe our current pelleting program. Shipping, that's something we're looking to do in the near future, and I'll describe a tiny bit about that, and ocean plastics. So alternative industrial fuels. If you think about heat sources for industry, we use coal for a lot of the heat sources, for steel, for cement manufacturing, for aluminium. Well, if we can displace that with some waste that we can burn more cleanly, and it's going to go to landfill anyway, I think it's a win-win for consumers and for producers. If you look at pelleting, the feedstock industry taught us all about pelleting many years ago. A 1 ton per hour pellet press, wood pellet press, could produce a 6 mil by 25 mil pellet, and a 3 ton per hour pellet press could produce a 10 mil diameter, 30 mil long pellet. Now, depending on the feedstock, could catalysis be of value? Spending expensive money on a combustion catalyst to burn wood wouldn't be good value. But if it's a high energy source, then it might well be worth burning that old hydrocarbon waste in a way that might create a high intense energy at a cheaper price than industry is currently using for heat and energy. So chemical assays that we do with the pelleting project would be at independent laboratories, so we don't control the outcomes. They're world-class centres of green chemistry excellence. And the proof of concept would then be just a solid assay. We try and keep the cost down for all companies interested in working with us in this area. So initially we do a small pilot project, or we propose one, with a solid assay only. Then we move on to the next stage of proof of concept, which would be emissions in a detailed study way. The emissions profile, as well as detailed composition of the pellet and the combustion products, would give us the evidence for the client to make a detailed investment on a proof-to-business circuit installation. So plastic waste varieties, you can't see these because it's very, very small, but I'll just summarise. You don't want to be burning PVC, but HDPE, LDPE are good sources. Polystyrene, not bad. Polypropylene, okay. You wouldn't want to be burning polyurethane, and PET has very low heating values, low heat values. So the best plastics would be HD LDPE and linear LDPE if you want to do some trace heavy metals recovery. So the first question you need to ask yourself if you want to ask us to go and do a project for you is, can we form the pellets from the feedstock you want us to work with? Does the catalyst that we provide at its cost, does it provide you with enough improvement? Does it give you better emissions than without it? The cost of it isn't necessarily cheap, but at a lower grade of product, we might still be able to achieve a good result, leave it in there, and it still be economically viable. So the proof of business, that would be a pilot plant installation, ladies and gentlemen. So just to give you an idea of the cost, if we were to do a 3 ton per hour pellet press installation in your facility, it would cost approximately £2 million. So that's a large chunk of money for an investment into something to see whether you've got a business or not, which is why we grade the scale of the proof of concept in the small and then medium investment, so that you can find out before you spend too much money whether it works or not. However, full plant installation we can provide. We have OEMs that are partners in our supply chain. As a company ourselves, I did describe a number of major players that we work with, and our third-party supply partners have over 63,000 employees around the world. So we can install as a main contractor a full plant at your facility if we do some research and it works out and you want to go ahead. With the Green Economy Solution Consulting, there are some issues. In the South nations, there are just becoming waste management regulations being sort of frameworks being put in place in ASEAN and other markets around municipal waste. But industrial waste, in some countries, it's still not controlled, it's still not governed. So perhaps you are an electricity regulator and you want to develop the next framework that can help your industrial companies that you're in charge of overseeing, help them to manage their waste and help them to do it in a way that you know will be effective for the circular economy and for the green energy transformation, as well as the commercial benefits. So we can help with that. it's important to support industrial development, and if you are just developing your frameworks for municipal waste management and bringing in inward investment, why not develop the industrial framework at the same time? We're happy to publish catalysed waste pellet fuel studies that we carry out, as subject to NDA, of course, with the client. And the knowledge transfer that we have, everything that we have is available through our consulting service if we can help you in your work. The mining area that we've been considering for a few months now, we've been working with the UK Department of International Trade. We've been coming into contact with a lot of major mining corporations that are struggling with energy provision in terms of the waste management regulations, but also the environment regs. If you produce 15 million tonnes of washed coal, you may well produce 3 million tonnes of dust, coal dust. So it may well be that isolated mines with your own power, you might use your own coal to burn in that power station. Well, that's feedstock for your power station, but it's lost revenue selling or importing to one of your clients. So if we can help to improve the combustion of your coal-fired power plants, then we can reduce what you have to use. But also, we might be able to generate some waste-to-energy pelletized fuel sources from your waste tyres, from your waste conveyor belts underground. Obviously, we'd need to put hammer mill circuit in to reduce it down to the right size and screening and dryers. But once we've got that going, you could have your self-sustaining feedstock. You may need to only to maybe co-fire 50-50 with coal and your own waste being produced. So coal dust is notoriously dangerous in explosive atmospheres if you don't handle it properly. But if you use coal dust as maybe a 10 or 15% component of a pellet, and you've got all the right safety equipment in place, there's no reason why you can't look at a pilot project with us to integrate your coal dust waste, which you can currently do very little with in the mining sector, and use that in a pellet as a combustion source. So I would call this, ladies and gentlemen, hybrid solution sets, because we're laying on top of the fuel economy of the mining vehicles underground, the drilling equipment that isn't being used with electric, the usual internal combustion engine equipment, the power generators. You know, our technology has been used on a 1 megawatt power gen test over in Mexico. It was Euro 3 fuel, but it was 9.9% fuel saving. So all the gen sets that are used in these isolated mine locations, they could genuinely be fair game for our technology if the customer wants to have a look and have a test. So laying internal combustion engines and waste to energy as multiple onion skin layers of a hybrid solution set is something that we think we can offer the mining sector, and we're about to find out in hopefully Mongolia and Kazakhstan and Poland in the next 12 months. Future work we've got planned, shipping. There are very few accredited by the IMO marine waste management companies. The industry is moving through a major fuel quality shift, as I made reference to yesterday, at least I believe. There's a 0.5% fuel sulfur cap on the marine fuel coming in next year. There's also a clash of perceptions, if you like, about scrubbers. Wet scrubbers, open and closed loop systems. Closed loop remain inside the vessel. The open loop goes out into the sea. I'm not sure open loop scrubbers are going to be the long-term allowable solution because that's just introducing more pollutants. So ballast waste water is an issue, fuel sludge residues and wet scrubber solids. So we're looking forward to hopefully working with some marine companies with several port developments and an IMO accredited waste management consultant. Perhaps we can dry and pellet or dry and crumb or form briquettes and create a safe fuel source with our combustion catalyst included to burn them more cleanly. But we also offer, ladies and gentlemen, partnership, in this case, world-class waste-to-energy combustion technology in the oceans. Ocean plastics are a big problem. Global pollution, it impacts tourist island economies. In the ASEAN region and Asia, there's a lot of that. Plastic takes a long time to degrade, and by 2050, it will outweigh marine life. So something has to happen. And the people being born now, the children being born, the animals being born, they are within the food chain now. It's being consumed by food in the systems, in the cells, and I'm sure there'll be some mutations going on, and that will change our futures. So horrific thoughts to consider if we don't take action, how it's going to be in just 5-10 years. More ocean waste statistics, 10 million tonnes ends up in the rivers or seas every year. 90% of the plastic enters from the 10 rivers, but cleaning EU beaches would cost 630 million euros. Cleaning Asia's beaches, a lot more, $1.3 billion. So the hope that I'm offering here today, ladies and gentlemen, it can't be announced because it's under a non-disclosure agreement, but it's a partner that we will be working with should they wish us to take it forward and present it with them here next year. It's a new system under development. It's past proof of concept. It's basically around centrifugal combustion processes. It can burn all ocean plastics, and it's based on thermal destruction technology from 1930s, as old as the hills. It can incinerate all sorts of waste with no harmful byproducts. The key to it is software controls for temperature, airflow, feed rate, cooling, and steam generation. And at that correct feed rate, it minimizes or eliminates dioxin and nitrogen dioxin production. So 1 ton of waste would produce 6 megawatts of heat energy converted into 1 megawatt hour of electrical power. Simply manufactured in modular units and minimalist design, so few component parts to fail. It can also be used, it can also be used on land for land refuse. So these are self-contained units. You can use them on ships, on the beach, at the back of a hospital for hospital waste, as well as tyres. So it's an incredible potential invention that's going through proof of business. We've heard a lot today and yesterday about things that are great ideas that don't stack up economically. So forgive me if I don't tell you all the details, because it needs to work before you get to know and be able to buy. The benefits: waste destruction at source, obviously reducing pollution, but minimizing and eliminating landfill requirements. Alleviates, obviously, the ecological and environmental impact that it would normally have occurred, and it's very low cost in comparison to traditional incineration. It's self-powering. Apart from 6 litres of diesel to get it started, it's self-powering once it's at operating temperature. Thank you very much.